My name is Grisha Stewart, and I'm the author of b.a.t, Behaviour Adjustment Training. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some case studies that I have. b.a.t is Behaviour Adjustment Training, and it is a combination of techniques from positive training and functional analysis. So it uses the concept that dogs are reacting and overreacting because what they're trying to get is either distance, so an increase of distance away from something, or getting closer to something, or some other reason, and that we can use that then as a reinforcement for better behavior. So we're teaching dogs to make better choices using functional rewards. Functional rewards are the consequence of the problem behavior that the dog is trying to earn. So for example, if a dog is jumping up on you and they're getting attention for that, then that would be a reward you can use for a replacement behavior like sitting on the floor. So basically it's the real life reward of the behavior that they're doing. One of the dogs that I developed b.a.t for was my own dog Peanut, and he used to be very aggressive to people, dogs, all sorts of different things, kids. And with him, I did probably about 5 years of counter conditioning for bicycles and people and dogs and all those different triggers. And it definitely helped with a lot of his triggers, but it wasn't enough. And so I started doing some training with him, and I did about 18 setups with people, with adult humans, and got him used to those. And it was actually within only about 2 months. So he had this whole 5-year span of a fair amount of change with counter conditioning, and then in that 2 months he was an entirely different dog in terms of how social he was, and so that was really great. And then we still had kids as an issue, and so we did another probably 8 sessions with children. And so I've done, we do b.a.t basically with all of our clients for our Growly Dog classes. We have classes in Seattle, and I really like how basically it teaches the people to be more focused on behavior, so noticing what their dogs are actually doing, and then they seem to like it better, and it's a little bit more practical, I think, for them. Especially the guys, for whatever reason, men don't tend to really want to carry around treats all the time, and so to have a technique that doesn't rely on food, that just you're kind of just watching the dog's behavior, that seems to be helpful. So I was working with a dog who had issues getting into the car. It was a Labrador Retriever, probably like 9 or 10 months old, afraid of the car. And so what we did is basically we used b.a.t to help the dog understand that he wasn't necessarily trapped in the car, that going toward the car was not something that was going to just magnetize him in. And so we started out with some food in the car, and then approached closer to the car, and as the dog was still comfortable approaching, then I would say yes, and then we'd walk away. So his reinforcement for approaching was that he would get to leave the scary car, and then eventually, then within that probably the first session, which was probably about 45 minutes, he was jumping into the car. And then I had the clients not ride in the car for that week, and then when I came back the next time, then we did another round of that. And I think we only did a couple, probably 3 sessions, and they started doing a little bit more on their own and going on very short trips as well. And so he became a regular lab who gets in the car. So another dog, I was working with a dog who had aggression issues toward people, but the first part of the problem was that he wouldn't enter our training room. And I can certainly do the session at his house, but we usually do our initial sessions at our training room because it's safer for the dogs and for me. And so basically what we did was it's very similar to the car, would be when he approached into the training room as he was coming in, they would say yes, walk him away. And at that point he was aggressive to me, and so I was sort of coaching from a distance. And I think it only took about 10 minutes to get the dog able to come in with no problems whatsoever. And so instead of just dragging the dog through something that they might be scared of, you can actually do this very gradual approach, retreat until they get comfortable with the concept. Another case study was a dog that we had from a shelter. So she's a foster dog, and she would basically scream her head off toward other dogs, and they weren't actually sure whether it was aggression or not. And what I did was, we had a fake dog, which I use for assessments, a life-size stuffed dog. So she went up to the dog, and she would, looked all, reactive, but she got there and was very like, "Hey, I love you." Very curvy. You can tell from the dog's spine, if you look at the top, that there's no aggression there when she's all wiggly. Anyway, and so what she was then was a frustrated greeter, so she really wanted to go closer. And so we started with her about 100 or so feet away, and just gradually approached. Every time we took one step forward as the reinforcement, and then waited for her to look away. Right at that moment, we'd say yes, and then go another one step closer. With the frustrated greeters, if you go more than about one step closer, then it puts them over threshold, and so we start to get more whining and barking again. And a couple times she did still, and so we would say, "No, let's go," and we would go further back, probably, just a couple of leash lengths back, and then do this very gradual approach again. And after, let's see, I think we did 6 dogs with her, and she was doing so much better at that point that she actually got adopted, and then we stopped working with her. But I think she's basically out there functioning in the world, so that's good.